Okay, let's start. Picture this scene, if you will. You're in Kerala. Maybe you can almost smell the wet earth, that sort of post-monsoon scent, right?
Hmm.
And maybe, drifting on the breeze, the aroma of coconut curry. You see farmers out working their land.
Yeah, a very typical serene image for that part of the world.
Exactly. And they're focused, trying to keep their crops safe, maybe from wild boars, maybe elephants wandering through. It sounds, well, idyllic, doesn't it?
It really does. Peaceful, harmonious almost.
But here's the pivot. That picture, it's turning into something else entirely, something
Yeah.
jarring, a nightmare, honestly.
Yeah, because those methods of protection, they're not always benign.
Far from it. We're talking about high-voltage death traps. These fences, they've claimed 24 lives in just the 2024-25 period alone.
And that number is a significant jump. A grim one. It was 16 the previous year.
It's truly alarming, a crisis that's sort of unfolding quietly, almost hidden within that peaceful scenery.
Absolutely. So our deep dive today, it's really about getting under the skin of this. Why are Kerala's farmlands buzzing, quite literally, with this level of danger?
We need to unpack the facts, look at the causes.
And try to understand what it means, for the people living there, but also for the wildlife caught up in all this. It's about lives, human and animal.
Let's dive straight into those numbers then, because they really do paint a stark picture. We've got data from the Kerala Electrical Inspectorate, the EI.
Right.
And for that 2024-25 fiscal year, 24 people electrocuted by these illegal electric fences.
24. It's a shocking figure.
And it's not spread evenly, is it? There's a geography to this tragedy, Palakkad. It's heartbreaking, but it leads with 10 deaths.
10. That's almost half the total just in one district.
Then you've got Thrissur with 5, Malappuram 3, Pathamanthita 2, and 1 each in Thiruvananthapuram, Kollam, Alappuzha, and Kannur.
And Palakkad. You mentioned it's consistently at the top.
Year after year, it seems, which raises its own questions, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
And if we zoom out slightly, look at the broader context, these illegal fences, they're part of a bigger issue with electrical accidents in Kerala.
Right. The total number surged.
Dramatically. To 241 lives lost in 2024-25. That's up from 205 the year before.
Wow.
And what's really striking, nearly 20% of all those electrical deaths, they come down to just two things, both preventable.
Okay, what are they?
These illegal fences we're talking about, and, believe it or not, people carelessly handling things like iron rods or ladders near overhead power lines.
So simple mistakes or maybe deliberate shortcuts having fatal consequences.
Exactly. It's a wake-up call, isn't it? How danger can just lurk in these seemingly ordinary, everyday situations. Ignoring basic safety, it can be deadly. Vigilance is key.
Which brings us right to the core question, what makes these fences so dangerous? We think electric fence, maybe a sharp zap, right? Not death.
Well, there's a critical difference, a life or death difference, really, between a legal, properly set up fence and these illegal ones.
Oh, okay. Walk us through that.
It all boils down to one specific device. It's called a fence energizer.
An energizer.
Right. A legal fence has to use one. What this gadget does is take the regular power supply and convert it. It turns it into short, high-voltage pulses.
Pulses, not a continuous flow.
Exactly. That's the key. It's designed to give a jolt, sharp enough to scare off an animal, a boar, an elephant, whatever it is, but without killing it. Think of it like a very unpleasant tap, not a sustained lethal shock.
Okay, so it's a safety device, fundamentally.
Precisely. And an ISI-certified one, meaning it meets safety standards, costs around 10,000 rupees.
About 10,000, so maybe 120 US dollars or so. It's an investment, sure, but...
It's an investment in safety, literally life-saving safety.
So, if that's the safe way, the legal way, and it costs around 10,000 rupees, why are people skipping it? Is it purely the cost? Or maybe they don't understand the risk.
That's a really important question. Cost is definitely part of the equation, no doubt. But what we're seeing is this incredibly dangerous shortcut.
Just bypassing the energizer altogether.
Completely. Instead, they hook their homemade fences directly to the KSM, the Kerala State Electricity Board power lines.
Oh, wow.
And the moment you do that, that fence isn't a deterrent anymore. It becomes an instant electrocution machine.
Because it's getting raw, continuous power.
Direct, continuous current, not the safe pulses. So yeah, that 10,000 rupee device, it's not just an expense. It's literally the difference between a scare tactic and a death trap.
And there's another layer to this, something really chilling. These illegal fences, they're often left on during the day.
Yes, that's a horrifying aspect. We've heard of cases, people dying from touching the very fences they put up.
How does that even happen?
They switch it on at night, to protect the crops. And then in the morning, They just forget. Forget to disconnect it. A simple lapse in memory.
With utterly devastating consequences, a self-inflicted tragedy, it's hard to fathom.
It is. And to really grasp the human cost behind these numbers, we need to talk about Ananthu.
Okay.
He was just 15. A Class 10 student from Vuzikadavu, which is near Nilambur in Malappuram district.
15 years old.
Yeah. On June 7th, just this year, 2025, he'd been playing football with friends. Afterwards, they were near a stream, wandered onto some private land.
Encountered one of these fences.
He touched an illegal electric fence, and he died instantly. Two of his friends were injured as well, one critically. Sachu, his name was. It's just horrific for the family, the community.
Unimaginable. And a tragedy like that involving a child, it must have caused uproar, especially, you mentioned Nilambur. There was a by-election coming up there, right?
Exactly. It immediately became politicized, a political firestorm. You had Congress leader Aryudan Shukath calling it state-endorsed murder.
Strong words. Who is he blaming?
Pointing fingers directly at the KSA, the electricity board, accusing them of negligence, of not monitoring how power was being used or potentially stolen.
Okay. And the other side? The government.
Well, the forest minister, A.K. Sesendran, he actually suggested there might be some kind of conspiracy, trying to stir things up deliberately because of the upcoming election.
Right, so accusations flying back and forth. And now we're just relaying these views, of course, impartially.
Absolutely. But beneath the political noise, what seems undeniable, according to locals, is just how common these illegal fences are in that area.
They're just everywhere.
That's the sense you get. It's become almost normalized, which is terrifying.
And Ananthu's death, tragic as it wasn't a one-off, even recently.
No, sadly not. Just about a week later, June 16th, a 65-year-old farmer, this time in Alapusha district, he died from an illegal electric snare set by his neighbor.
A snare, like a trap wire.
Exactly. And what's particularly frustrating, maybe even maddening about this case, this farmer who died, he'd actually been offered a government-subsidized solar fence, a safe legal option.
And he refused it.
He refused it. It just highlights this troubling resistance sometimes to adopting safer solutions, even when they're available and potentially subsidized.
Which ties into this whole bigger picture, doesn't it? This deeply complex issue of human-wildlife conflict in Kerala.
It's right at the heart of it. A recent Forest Department study actually flagged 273 local body areas as critical zones for wildlife attacks.
273 areas. That's a lot.
It is. And the toll over the last decade, 840 human deaths linked to wildlife encounters.
840.
And just in 2025 alone, 39 people died from these encounters, usually involving wild boars, elephants, sometimes gars, or Indian bison.
And they cause massive crop damage, right? Driving farmers to these, well, desperate measures.
It's huge damage, which is the primary motivation for these fences, illegal or not. But it's not always just about crop protection.
Oh, what else is going on?
Well, there's concerning evidence suggesting that some, let's call them antisocial elements, are using these deadly fences specifically to trap wild boars.
For what purpose?
For the illegal meat trade. So it adds this whole other layer of, frankly, grim motivation.
So it's not just defense, it's offense in some cases. Poaching using these deadly tools.
Exactly. And the tragedy, it cuts both ways. It's not just humans dying. Wildlife are major victims, too.
Right, you mentioned that earlier.
A CAG report from 2024, it found that between 2017 and 2022, 223 wild animals died from electrocution by these unauthorized fences.
223 animals, including elephants.
Including 17 elephants in that period. 17. It's heartbreaking. You probably remember that awful case in Palakkad back in 2020.
The pregnant elephant. Yes. That wasn't a fence, though, was it?
No, that was different, but related to the conflict. She died after biting an explosive hidden in a fruit, likely meant for boars, but fences are killing elephants directly.
And it's not just illegal fences set by farmers.
Shockingly, no. There was even a case of an elephant dying from contact with a fence set up by the Forest Department themselves in Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary.
By the Forest Department? How does that happen?
It highlights the desperation, maybe? Or perhaps issues with maintenance or installation, even within official channels. It just shows how fraught the situation is.
So if we step back, try to see the root cause, it seems to point towards Kerala's forests, doesn't it? They're shrinking, habitats are fragmented.
That's a huge underlying factor. It pushes wildlife out, forces them into areas where people live and farm.
And farmers feel besieged. We hear them saying things like, we just can't cultivate near forests anymore.
Because the crop destruction is relentless. Daily battles against elephants, pigs, gars. You can understand their frustration, even if the methods are wrong.
So the forest department, they must be trying things. You mentioned solar fences?
They are proposing solutions. Things like converting degraded plantations back into more natural forests, providing food sources within the forest, and yes, installing solar fences.
But there's criticism there too, right, about timber plantations?
Yes. Critics point out that while the department talks about restoring habitats, they also added over 500 hectares of new timber plantations just in 2023-24.
Which seems counterintuitive if the goal is habitat.
It does suggest a potential conflict, doesn't it? Between the department's need perhaps for revenue from timber and the urgent need for safety and genuine wildlife conservation. Are economic goals getting in the way?
It certainly raises that question. Okay, so we have these awful stats, these tragic stories, both human and animal. We know the danger. Then you look at the law.
And this is where it gets really frustrating.
Because Kerala has rules, right? Strict ones, apparently.
Incredibly strict guidelines for electric fences, set by the Electrical Inspectorate, the EI, way back in 2011.
So over a decade ago, what do they say?
They cover everything. Fences must meet national, even international safety standards. They absolutely require those ISI-approved energizers we talked about.
The pulse devices.
Yes. And you need EI approval before you even install one. Plus, warning signs are mandatory near public paths, and security fences need physical barriers too. It sounds completely watertight on paper.
It really does. Foolproof, almost.
But then you look at the reality. That 2022 CAG audit we mentioned, it found that none, literally none, of Kerala's solar fences had the required EI approval.
None. 0%.
0% approval, which just screams widespread disregard for the rules, and frankly, enforcement that's just not working. It's woefully ineffective.
When the rules are so clear but nobody seems to be following them, what's missing? Is it awareness? Is it the will to comply? Or is it just lack of accountability?
It feels like a mix of all three, perhaps. Maybe people aren't fully aware of the specific rules or the danger of not following them. Maybe the cost and hassle of getting approval seems too high.
If nobody's checking.
Exactly. If enforcement is weak, where's the incentive? And even when things go tragically wrong, you look at the legal consequences.
What are they, technically?
Technically, installing an illegal fence that kills someone could lead to charges under the Indian Penal Code, Section 304. That's culpable homicide not amounting to murder.
And the penalty.
It can be up to 10 years in jail plus a fine. But, and this is a big but.
Convictions are rare.
Very rare. And even when there are convictions, the punishments often seem too light to act as a real deterrent. It just allows this cycle of negligence to continue. The system isn't stopping it.
So the deterrent just isn't there, which means we need solutions that actually work on the ground. How do we, zap the problem, not the people?
Right. Well, different bodies are pushing for things. The Electrical Inspectorate, the EI, they want these micro-level committees.
What would they do?
Identify illegal fences, village by village, almost, and then recommend government action. They also suggest using insulated cables in forest fringe areas.
Why insulated cables?
To stop people from being able to easily tap directly into the main KSD power lines for their illegal fences, make it physically harder.
Okay, that makes sense. And the forest department.
They launched something called Mission Fencing 2024. The goal is to repair about 1,400 kilometers of existing solar fences, getting help from the public and NGOs.
Repairing existing fences is good, but what about new, safe ones and addressing the core issue?
Exactly. These initiatives are promising, but they need more to be truly impactful. We have to address the farmers' needs. We talked about the cost, maybe $40,000 for a really good quality energizer, plus the EI inspection fees of RSET $2,500.
That's a lot for a small farmer.
It's a significant hurdle. So subsidies are crucial. Making safe solutions genuinely affordable, genuinely accessible. That's key. We can't overstate that.
And just making the tech available isn't enough.
Absolutely not. Education is paramount. Really getting the message across to farmers, to landowners, about why legal fences are better, why they're safer for everyone, including themselves. It's not just rules for rules' sake.
It's about saving lives, their own, potentially.
Precisely. And thinking bigger picture again, those ecological solutions, restoring forests, planting fruit-bearing trees inside the forests.
To keep animals from needing to come out and raid farms in the first place.
Addressing a root cause of the conflict.
Yeah.
Ultimately, though, it probably needs a combination of everything. Making safe options affordable, education, ecological fixes, but also
stricter enforcement.
Yes. Real penalties that act as a deterrent. Regular inspections. And sustained public awareness campaigns. It needs a multi-pronged attack.
So as we sort of wrap this up, it's clear this electric fence problem in Kerala, it's not just about wires and watts, is it?
Not at all. It's really a symptom of much larger tangled issues.
You've got the human-wildlife conflict escalating.
Definitely. But also, as we saw, really lax enforcement of rules that already exist. And maybe this pervasive culture of cutting corners, taking risks to save a bit of money or effort,
And then you throw in the politics, like that by-election situation in Nilambur.
which just complicates everything further,
Yeah.
distracts from finding real solutions sometimes.
The bottom line, though, those 24 lives lost in 2024-25, that number has to be a wake-up call. It just can't be ignored.
It can't. From Ananthu, the 15-year-old boy, to the farmer in Alappuzha. These aren't abstract statistics. They are people, families devastated, painful reminders of the real stakes here.
And for Kerala,
Yeah.
a state known for so many positive things, right? Beautiful backwaters, spices, high literacy.
Absolutely. It now needs to add safe farming urgently to that list of priorities, because nobody should be forced into a position where they feel they have to choose between protecting their livelihood and protecting lives.
So maybe the thought to leave everyone with is this. When you think about that balance, human needs versus nature, livelihoods versus conservation, or even just community safety in our busy, often overwhelming world.
Remember those wires in Kerala? It forces you to think about collective responsibility, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the real consequences of shortcuts.
It's not just about fences, is it? It's about life itself.
Yeah.
And the right to feel safe, even in a place that looks so peaceful on the surface.